Welcome to Energy Matters, exploring awakening to your authentic self and finding purpose through mind, body, and soul. With your hosts, Cody Edner and David Gandelman. Brought to you by intuitivevision.net and groundedmind.com.
Hey, Energy Matters listeners, welcome to the first episode of 2018. It is already the end of January when we are bringing this one out for you. Me and Cody had a slow start to the year. Cody's just coming out of hibernation. Hi, Cody.
Hey, David. That's true. You don't know how true that is, actually.
I know. He slept from mid-December to end of January.
Pretty much.
Needed a rest from all the amazing teaching you do. We've got an awesome episode for you guys today. Michael Tamura, he's an incredible teacher, healer, author, and it's a long one. We went really, really deep on this one, talked about some pretty radical spiritual stuff. So if you're into that, this is going to be the episode for you. One other announcement before we get into it, which is we have launched our Intuitive Masters training program, which is we've been in the works for a long time. It starts February 6th, so pretty soon. And I think we'll accept enrollment until the 12th. But it's a 3-month level 1 intuitive training. So if you're into learning about meditation, energy work, the kind of stuff that we've been talking about on the podcast, but you want to go really deep with us, this is the moment. We're only going to teach it once this year. And it's starting very soon. We should have announced it sooner, but it's already almost full, so it's cool. But I'm pretty excited for it, and it's good to be back on the podcast. I've missed you, Cody.
Oh, likewise, David. It's been a while, but I was hibernating, so
You had some good dreams. I hope you had some good dreams.
Had some good dreams, recouped a little energy, and I'm ready to get at it, So, hey, if you want to find out more about Michael Tamura, go to michaeltamura.com and you can check out his website. He's an author and his book is You Are the Answer. It's a great book and you might want to check that out. And he travels around a lot. So it looks like he's going to be in Switzerland this year. So maybe you want to travel over to Switzerland to see Michael. I might want to do that. And then and I think that's like in May. And then in July, he's going to be in Hawaii. Traveling and teaching along the way. So it was really fun to get to talk with him and hear about his teachings, his long career of teaching and sharing spiritual wisdom with the world. So let's get to it.
Yeah, let's roll.
All right. Well, hello and welcome everybody to this episode of Energy Matters. I'm here with my co-host, David Gandelman, as always.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And we are so excited today to be able to bring to you our guest and someone that's been a friend of mine for many, many years and someone who's been practicing spirituality for, I wish I could say longer than I've been alive, but not, but well over 40 years. Michael Tamura. Hi, Michael, and welcome.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, and I'm creaking my way in. I'm so old. So,
of course, the one thing Michael and I have in common is we both can say we have been practicing spirituality for longer than David's been alive. So
that's a fact. Yeah. I'm 14.
So, Michael, you have been practicing spirituality and meditating and working energy for, well over 40 years, many, many years of experience. So obviously there is a lot that we could ask you about and a lot of wisdom that you can share with us today. But really, I would love to start just way back in the beginning. Like, how was your process of awakening? Well, one of the things I think when I think about that process is that's the one thing that maybe is timeless, right? There's a lot of people awakening right now to their spiritual energy, their spiritual abilities or talents. And these questions probably remain the same, whether it was 50 years ago or now. The thing that's maybe different is access and availability to those answers, right? We can find many, many different places to start to explore ourselves and that awakening and get answers about, next
Yes,
steps
and
and what to
plus,
do. Yeah.
you have so much more validation and communication today, and like you said, the access to that communication is available, like this podcast, and you click on the internet and type in whatever it is you want, and at least there's somebody, some group in the world that are communicating about that. So that's enormous. But when I was growing up, well, it's interesting. It even happens before I was born. My mom was pregnant in Japan. I was born in Japan, and my dad was out looking for work in Tokyo, and my mom was in Sendai, the place where the big tsunami hit a few years ago and devastated. But that's where I was born. And when she was pregnant, the next door neighbor apparently was where she was staying with her sister, older sister. The next door neighbor was the landlord to that property, but the son was a college kid that came home on weekends, and he saw her sitting at the veranda in the back, and he jumps over the fence with a deck of cards and says, "Mrs. Tamura, I need to give your baby a card reading." And my mom, of course, at that time had no clue what a card reading was or what a reading was. And she didn't know what he was talking about, but he was so enthusiastic. And so she says, "Sure." And he shuffled the cards and had her cut it and this and that and the other thing. And he pulls out some cards and he looks at him and he says, "Oh, well, good news. Your baby's a boy." And of course, at that time, they didn't know, they didn't have able to tell what sex the baby was.
Right.
And so the guy says, your baby's a boy. He's very healthy, strong, and he's doing really well. He's going to do really well. And so that's the part my mom heard at that time and thought, "Oh, this is great. I like this." And then she said, this was 36, 38 years later, she's telling me about this. And she said the part that she didn't hear, she said it went right over her head, was after that, he said, "Well, and your son, when he grows up, he's going to be traveling all over the world as a healer and as a spiritual teacher. And he'll be healing people and teaching a lot of people all over the world." And she said that just kind of went in one ear, out the other, because it had no context. And then he just took the cards and jumped over the fence and went home.
His mom was calling him for dinner.
Yeah, exactly. So when I was about 36, 7, 8 years old, and we were at her house in Sacramento, they had moved by then to the States, and we're just talking about stuff, and she throws that out and says, "Oh yeah, I just realized he was right."
Wow.
So we laughed. It took you long enough.
Sometimes it takes a long time to get validation as a psychic, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But when I was growing up, I was, very aware, but it was very difficult because I was seeking communication with everyone and anyone, and even with kids my age, there was a disconnect because I'd be seeing stuff. I was clairvoyant from early on, and the original way I saw things when I was really little, like 4, 5, 6 years old, I saw things like in a geometric matrix. This thing pops up. It was like a pop-up window before there were anything like pop-up windows, and 3D, and it would show up between me and whoever I was in touch with. When I didn't know at the time, but when I matched somebody's energy and that person needed some communication from me, this pop-up window pops up between the two of us, and it would look like what I used to call it when I was a kid was the jungle gym. Remember those jungle gyms in school, playgrounds where you climb? It's like these rectangular bars and stuff, because that's the only thing I could even closely relate it to. But it was much, much more intricate. if it were today, I'd say, those CAD 3D pictures that engineers use that have all these lines of cars or equipment, and you can turn it around and it looks like a geometrical matrix of some sort, very intricate design. That's what I used to see. And it was glowing. And I assumed, just like most kids do, I assume that, well, if I'm seeing it, then the other person I'm talking to sees it. Just like, if there was a computer between the two of us, I point to the computer and you know what I'm talking about, kind of a thing. And so as soon as I see this geometrical matrix, I understood what that person was going through in life and the relationships and what they needed to look at and what they needed to consider to be able to take their next steps and heal themselves. But of course, as a kid, I don't have that kind of vocabulary. I don't have that experience to talk like that. So I just go with my hands, I point at this 3D thing and between us and say, well, look at that, and you'll understand what's going on with you. And of course, that didn't go anywhere. It just went poof. It was like the person didn't even look at what I was pointing at, because as far as they're concerned, nothing was there. And I didn't know that. So over a course of time, I kept on doing that, and I struck out every single time, zero hits. And so finally, just like a kid, I said to myself, this isn't working. And the minute I thought that to myself, it went away. And I didn't get that back for years until I started my psychic training and stuff. And so that disappeared. But in its place, a new thing happened, which was I start seeing auras around everybody. And so that was around, well, probably from little bits and pieces from earlier, but I didn't recognize it because this other thing was much more prominent. And then when this thing went away, it was always, everybody had these colored, what I called as a child, colored clouds. And I didn't have words like auras. Plus, they probably wouldn't have understood that anyway. And so people would occasionally, most of the times, anything I said about those colored clouds, even if I didn't talk about the colors, it just goes over people's heads. And I remember one time, I must have been about 6, and my mom and I were going to someplace on the train in Tokyo. So we're at the platform, and there's one platform after another, a whole bunch of them. And when there's no trains stopped, you can see all the platforms. Well, I'm looking at the next platform over across the tracks, and these 2 Japanese businessmen type people were communicating. And all of a sudden, one person says something, which I can't hear anything, but apparently, the guy's saying something to the other guy, and the other guy who's hearing it, his aura turns all colors. It just went all over the place. And I knew, when I saw that, I knew he got terribly embarrassed by what this other person said and was kind of offended, embarrassed, and not knowing quite what to do. And so I casually mentioned that to my mom, and my mother looks at me and says, and she tries to listen, and she says, how can you tell? You can't hear them talking. And I said, well, the colored clouds changed in that person on the right side. And she goes, she is about to say something, and then our train came, and she goes, oh, there's our train. And that interrupted the whole communication, and nothing was said about that after that. And it was like that. It was almost always like that. If anybody even showed a little interest to what I was saying on that level, something happened, and then they get distracted, and that's the end of the conversation. And a little while later, a similar thing happened, except this was the only person who pursued it a little bit. I don't even remember who she was. She wasn't a relative, or she could have been a friend of my mom's that visited one day, and I was in a room in our house in Japan, and this Japanese woman comes by, and I'm doing something, and I look up, and I notice she needed some communication. And so I started to tell her some things about her life. And she stops and she looks at me strange and she says, "How do you know?" And I said, "Well, your colored clouds changed colors and it's doing this." And so I tried to describe it as best I could. And she goes, "What colored clouds? There's no such thing as colored clouds." And I said, "Well, everybody has this colored cloud around them, and the colors in the cloud changes, and that's how I can tell what's going on with you." And she says, "I don't have colored clouds around me. Nobody has colored clouds around them." So I'm kind of a little bit exasperated, and I'm going, "No, okay, how else can I describe this?" I said, "Well, the air around people has colors, different colors." And she goes, "Air doesn't have any colors." and I said, "Well, regular air doesn't have colors, but the air right around people has colors." And she said, "No, there's no such thing." And at that point, I decided, again, same decision. I said, "This isn't working." And the minute I said this isn't working, the colored clouds, the aura, it didn't completely disappear. It went into the background where I could only faintly see it, and only came to the foreground when somebody was really, emotional or intense or excited or something like that. And so it kind of went into the background, so I wasn't, seeing it right in my face all the time. And so I didn't have to deal with it as much. And finally, by the time I was in about fifth grade, I started to kind of get an idea. And by sixth grade, I finally figured out what I was doing wrong, quote unquote, because that's, again, if how you're communicating and what you're trying to do with people isn't working, as a child, you think I'm doing something wrong. I'm not doing it right. And I'm continuously looking for the right answers of, okay, what am I supposed to do here? And finally, what I learned was what I was expected to do was think. And think in an intellectual sense of think. And all through elementary school, I had another experience which was difficult, which was, how they have different levels. The gifted classes at the top of the hierarchy, and the remedial classes at the bottom, and then you have the average classes in the middle. And so I would either be put into a remedial class or a gifted class, never the regular class. And it went flip-flop every year. If I were put into the gifted class, like second grade, I know I was put into the gifted class. The third grade class was a remedial class. And then the fourth grade class was a gifted class. And the fifth grade class, started off as a really remedial class.
I think that's a sign that they didn't know what to do with you.
Exactly. Yeah. And I didn't know that at that point, but years later, I look back and I said, oh, yeah, they just didn't know what to do with me. And during that time, I got sent to the nurse's office to see if I had a medical problem. I got sent to the counselor's office to see if I had a psychological problem. And fortunately, every so-called expert that I got sent to see what my problem was always sent me back to the class teacher saying he doesn't have a problem, not in that area. And he's perfectly healthy and he's perfectly mentally fine. And so they scratched their head and put me in the opposite class the next time. And then they decide that, that didn't work. So they put me back into the remedial class. And fifth grade, it was the breaking point, changing point, because I got put into what the kids knew as the retardo class. It wasn't just remedial. It was the retardo
Not
class.
a lot of PC back then, huh?
No. And especially amongst kids, they're anything goes. And so it was like being in prison. And that's when my, seeing energy, seeing colors, and even not just around people, but in the room. I walk in, it's like this battleship gray. The whole classroom is gray. All I see is gray everywhere I look in this classroom. And the teacher is kind of gray, and he looked like a cross between Ichabod Crane and Scrooge. and he kind of acted like that, but I can tell he had a good heart. He wasn't a mean, nasty person, but he was this total disciplinarian, everything by the book, and everything there was repeat, repeat, your multiplication table, repeat your addition table, subtraction, repeat everything over and over and over, and write this 100 times, and then write it 100 times more. That was the class. And because this is considered a total remedial class of kids who didn't get it and who couldn't learn very well. And so I'm in that class for a month, and the next thing, one day, I'm just doing my assignment, and he's grading papers or whatever, and he pops up out of his chair suddenly. He points to two boys and says, "Okay, you and you, take Tamura and his chair and desk over to Miss Wilkinson's class." It was like that. There's no explanation of anything. It's just like the command. And so we pick up my desk and chair, and we march out of this room and go down 3 classrooms, or 2 classrooms down the hall, into Miss Wilkinson's class, which turned out to be the gifted class. And walking into her class was like some scene from the what is that, Wizard of Oz, and it goes from black and white to color. Mm-hmm. I went from this gray, battleship gray classroom to this daisy yellow. It was just this bright spring yellow. It was like going into a springtime field of flowers. And I thought, wow, my shoulders lightened up, everything lightened up. And I thought, oh, this is neat. And then I got put into a place to sit and start work. But this is the gifted class. They're advanced, and I've already missed it for a month and a little over a month. So I'm tremendously behind. So I had a really hard time with that class, and I struggled all year just to catch up to or maintain, being able to do reading, writing, and arithmetic kind of a thing. But by 6th grade, it was in this 5th grade class, second part, that I learned, okay, everybody, all the teachers up to that point, the problem they had with me was they come around and we'd study something and they ask for my opinion. They'll come along and says, "Michael, what's your opinion about this?" And I would go, I don't know. And the reason was my mind was empty. I had nothing in there. And this was as a result of many, many lifetimes of meditation. Prior to this current lifetime, where I was born in Japan, the immediately previous lifetime, I was also born in Japan, but as a Japanese girl, and I died in the atomic blast in Hiroshima. And when I was 7 years old or so, and that was completely set up. I set that lifetime up so that I could work after my death, and I wanted it to be at ground zero. So there's nobody, my mother perished in that life as well. At the same time, I was with her, and I didn't want anybody grieving for my death. And everybody I knew was gone. So it was a clean getaway. And my main objective for that incarnation was to incarnate and then get out of the body and work in the spiritual space, helping and healing the people who died in that blast. Because dying from an atomic blast affected souls completely differently than if they just got bombed. by a regular conventional bomb. And because they did, it was on the other side, on the immediate other side, those souls who didn't make it over all the way, they got hung up in the transition because they're in shock. They don't, the trauma on a psychological level was so huge. Of 1 minute you're raking the leaves, and next minute, not only are you not in the body anymore, there is no body left. So the souls that were wandering around in this, what maybe on the Catholic level they might call it purgatory or something, but they're wandering around in this no man's land in between being incarnated and being fully back to spirit. They're still functioning like they still have a body, because these souls believed they were the body. This is me. You point to your body and go, this is me. And anything that happens to the body is happening to me. And anything I feel in the body and see with the eyes of the body is happening to me. And so the majority of people were like that. And those people who were pretty entrenched in being a body and living as a body, well, just because the body's gone, but they're fully conscious and they're still thinking the same way they're thinking when they had a body. So they're still trying to rake the leaves, or, if they were walking down the street in Hiroshima, they're still trying to walk. And of course they could move, and all you need to do is think to go there, but you don't have any legs and you don't have any arms, and and you can't touch anybody. And so they're freaking out and they don't know what happened. Meanwhile, those who didn't die, many of them wish they were dead because the pain and the suffering was so horrible. And so the whole experience of that was like literally somebody's idea of hell, being trapped in hell. So we knew that, just like their souls knew who volunteered on the other side of the planet during World War II in the Jewish concentration camps, where they were stuck there, and some people were tortured and killed and everything. And some of those who volunteered for those positions to be in those places were healers and spiritual teachers. And they said, okay, this is what's going to happen. And when that happens, there's got to be beings that are having to lead the way and help people and get them on track or toward that. It's all awakening process. Everything that happens in life in this world and what we go through is part of our awakening process. And a soul has the choice to decide, okay, am I going to use this to wake myself up and be free, or am I going to just go with the program and just bump around according to whatever happens until it gets to that point where it's so unbearable, I'll do anything. Tell me, where do I turn to? You get to that place where you've done everything and you don't know what to do. Nothing seems to work. And that's usually what's called a wake-up call, where you're at the bottom of the pit and the only way you can look is look up, so to speak. But in this case, in terms of spiritual awakening, you have to look within. Mm-hmm. Because until then, just like the example I gave of those people in Hiroshima, the souls that their body got disintegrated by the atomic bomb, without a body, they didn't know who they were. Literally, they're going, who am I? Where am I? What's going on? It looked like a scene in that part of the, if you want to call it the astral, that part of the out-of-body experience in transition after death. They were in something that would be appropriate for the Night of the Living Dead,
right?
Horror movie.
So given that state that you're talking about, where a soul thinks it's its body, and then if it leaves in that state, doesn't have a transition time, it can stay in that awareness or that state. Do you think part of the power of like a near-death experience is that someone actually wakes up to the fact that they're not their body, and then when they come back, it's like, oh my gosh, the whole world is different because now I know I'm not my body, and now I can actually live a life that is infused with spirit, let's say.
Absolutely. And that's been my experience. I've had 5 near-death experiences, but I already knew all this stuff before I had my first near-death experience. So for me, that part wasn't a factor at all. But I read up on other people's near-death experiences. Plus, I got in touch with quite a few people who've written books and whatnot of their near-death experiences. But the common denominator in relationship to everybody I talked to who's also had near-death experiences is exactly what you just said. For them, it was their sorry about that.
That could be someone calling from the other side.
That's right.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, I need a little help. I've been stuck since your show.
This is my
That's
phone
good.
here.
You should just answer it like, hey, you're on the Energy Matters podcast.
I'm on the air, but hey.
Yeah, that's getting to be a popular subject, I wonder if they have telemarketers on the other side.
Right.
They don't know they're dead. They're just calling.
Yes, then they won't stop calling. But anyway,
Michael, the last time I saw you, you had 3 near-death experiences, and I just heard you say you had 5.
Yes.
What has happened in the last few years?
After 3 of them,
Oh my God!
You stop counting. No, the I don't count the last 2 as a full near-death experience because after the third one was the biggie, so to speak, where when the first responder found me, he said my body was already in a premature rigor mortis, and there's a whole like a circus of errors. It happened at a gym, and so because my body was so in this rigor state, and they couldn't get me out of the elliptical machine, in a gym that I was working out on when I keeled over. So my legs are tangled up in the machine and everything. And so the first responder happened to be a young licensed EMT, and who was the son of the manager downstairs who was managing the gym. And the manager was just about to go off shift with her son to go to lunch. And because the son was visiting from another city back from college. And so so they were just about to go out when the only other person in the second floor of the gym where I was some old man who just was walking in when I keeled over, and he goes, oh, and he walks downstairs again. Took him a while to get there. And he said, there's a man upstairs that keeled over. And so she knew who the guy upstairs was because I was the only one upstairs. And she's a friend of mine, the manager. And so she goes, oh, my God. And she hollers to her son, who's an EMT, working out in the weight room, and says, go upstairs. Michael's in trouble. And so he thinks she's telling him there's 2 upstairs in this gym split. It's not connected. And just the day before, a woman who lives in an apartment on the other side of the gym upstairs had an epileptic seizure, and he had to treat her. And so he thought it was the same thing all over again. So he runs straight for her apartment in the other side of the gym before she catches him going the wrong stairs and says, no, the other side in the aerobic room. And so he comes down and goes up. So by the time he gets to me, several minutes have passed, and he said I was deader than a doorknob at that point even, but he couldn't get me out of the entanglement to start resuscitation, CPR. So he had to go downstairs and holler to the general gym, I need help. And guys stuck in the machine, and I need to get him out. And amazingly, there was another EMT working out downstairs. So he comes, and two other guys come running up. So the four of them were able to untangle me out of the machine and flatten me out on the floor to start CPR. So just to get to the CPR, it took him several minutes. Meanwhile, the manager's trying to call 911, and somebody it's a cordless phone, right? Somebody walked away with her phone in her office and left it somewhere. So she said she was screaming all over the gym saying, where's the phone? Where's the phone? Look for the phone. And somebody finally found the phone, and she called 911. And then she says and she makes it clear to the ambulance people not to come to the front driveway and the front parking lot, to go around the back to the upper parking lot of the gym. There's two parking lots. And if they came in the front, they'd have to go through the first floor and take this very slow lift up to the second floor and then, to me. So she tried to tell them, you got that? This is how you have to do it. Well, of course, first, after 7-8 minutes after she calls, there's no ambulance. And they're right down the street. So they should have been there within a minute or two. But so she had to call them again, and they lost track of whatever, or they had to send another one out. And so the ambulance finally comes. They park in the lower floor, of course. They come in, and she says, in that, 18 years she's been a manager there, worked there and everything, she's really, other than the demonstration and test run, she's never seen an actual customer use that lift to go from the second floor to the first floor to the second floor. But when the ambulance crew with their gurney came in the wrong door where they have to go upstairs, they have to use the lift. Right when they got to the lift, this little old lady pushing a little old man in a wheelchair goes into the lift.
Oh my God.
And right before them, and pushes the button up. So they have to wait the full cycle for them to slowly go up to the second floor. One of the paramedics ran upstairs to help the old lady take the man out of the lift in the wheelchair because she was so slow. And then they push the button to bring it down, and then they get in, and then they go up. Meanwhile, the other crew is doing CPR, and they're not getting a pulse. They're not getting me to breathe again for over 10 minutes. But these guys had the defibrillator, so they zapped me, and then they got a heartbeat and respiration started. And so, but I was basically in a coma. And so that's just getting to that place. So that was a major experience. In the meantime, I don't have any recollection of keeling over. I mean, I don't even remember what I was doing before this whole thing happened, but my awareness was just like, I remember shooting out. It's not even shooting out. I remember it was like different than the previous two near-death experiences where it definitely was going out of my body. But this one, the third one, it was as if I was being sucked out of my body by a force beyond my control type of a thing. And I just was taken out. and immediately I'm in this space of complete. It's like going from being in the body to instantly to the furthest place you can possibly imagine going from the body, and yet being in the center of everything. And the only thing I can come up with to even start to describe it, which is pretty impossible, is that I was sitting in front of God's eternal flame of love. And it was like that. That's kind of the subjective experience long after I came back to the body, how I could describe it, but it doesn't really do anything because in that space, there was no description. There was absolutely no thought. There's no me. There's not anything I can even go, I experienced this.
Mm.
It was just
like pure being or something, huh?
It's just beingness of
Wow.
all, and absolute total stillness and peace and love, whatever you want to call it, but it's an absolute.
Wow.
And nothing to be able to really talk about other than, as I quote, kind of remember it, so to speak. That's as close as I can come to putting some words to it. And the experience, again, after I came back and I start to have my memory and things like that back, which took about 6 days to get back my memory. And I never got back my memory for 15 days worth. 9 days before and 5 days after, or 6 days after, I have absolutely no recollection of anything here on planet Earth.
Huh.
But the sense when I think about it in retrospect, it's like I spent about 3 days, kind of a subjectively 3 days in this non anythingness, and it was like being just as I am, and then I start to have that experience of consciousness where there's some sort of me, some sort of I'm here, and this is what I'm experiencing while I was out of the body, and that part felt like it lasted about 5 days, and it's in that part was a lot of experience of learning, being put through all these tests and trials and learning experiences, as well as being in a high state of meditation and going to these, the closest I can call it is a meditation lecture session with other beings. And then before coming back, I was put through a lot of trials to prepare me for what I needed to do when I got back.
Mm.
And the last thing that, as I'm coming back to the body, what was impressed upon my mind was, okay, you're going back to resurrect yourself. And at the time, I didn't really know what that meant, other than the technical definition of resurrection is raising from the dead, right?
Right.
And so that seemed like logical, obvious. Okay, I was dead, especially once I came back here more fully and understood what had happened physically. Then I remember, oh yeah, you're going back to resurrect yourself. And so I assumed, oh yeah, I'm raising myself from the dead, of course. And then I knew from previous experiences of having near-death experiences when I had heart attacks and stuff, where it's rough. There's a lot of healing and processing and returning. Dying is easy. It's like, okay, I'm out of here. See you later. But coming back is the challenge. Coming back is not for the faint of heart, so to speak. And so coming back, I knew I was going to have to start all over from the place of, and why I was in the gym at that time was I was probably in the most healthy and fit state I've ever been in my life, because of all the healing I had to do, and especially on the physical level of recovery from heart attacks and things of that nature, near-death experiences. It's taken me, several years to get to that place where I'm at the top of my game on a physical level, and that's why it was such a surprise. I must have been going out full out, and then boom, next thing I'm dead again. So when I come back, it's on a physical body level, square one. Start from, okay, can I walk a circle around the living room? And it was like I needed Raphael to walk with me, to steady me while I walked around in a circle. And within a couple of days, I was able to do a circle around the living room 10 times. I mean, that's nothing, right? That's basically going down the driveway and back, if that much. And it took me a few days to doing that, and then I can do it on my own with no support. And I thought, okay, after about a week of this, I can go outside. I'll walk down the driveway. Our driveway is maybe 50 feet, and I go to the end of the driveway, and it's very slightly uphill. And then I come back down to the house, and I go, okay, that's enough for the day.
Wow.
So that's where I had to start. And that's just on a purely physical, how much can I walk and do physically? And, but because I've been through it twice before, I was able to pace myself and get to the place where within a month, I was able to walk around a small block around the house. We live out in the woods, so to speak. So it's uphills and downhills, and I was able to make our short walk, which is about a mile and a quarter, and slowly and taking time off and everything along the way. And then by 6 months, I was walking the full 2 miles or more long loop, and at 9 to 10% grade, going uphill for about a mile of that. And then I got to do it at a regular speed, and it's like that, taking it step by step by step, and being able, and not pushing myself, because that's what I learned is what probably did me over that one time. The major time was I pushed myself too hard at the gym,
right?
Because I could.
Yeah. So you were talking about the thread between near-death experiences, and then you kind of got into yours. But what was that thread? And was yours a reflection of that, or are there some differences?
Mine was enormous learning. You can't have a near-death experience and not learn a whole lot.
Right. Okay.
But what I was referring to was, for the majority of people and the people who've written books about it, it seems the number one thing was the total wake-up call. I'm spirit, not the body. But because I've lived that way for so many years before I had my first near-death experience, that wasn't the case for me at all. It was the resurrection part, and what I learned about what it meant when I was told, okay, you're going back to learn to resurrect yourself. And I'm meditating. I'm looking at this every day of, okay, resurrection, raising yourself from the dead. Well, I'm not dead. I wasn't ever dead. I didn't even know I was dead, quote unquote, in terms of people who were here said that he was dead.
Right.
But there was no death, and I knew that, and that's a foregone conclusion. And so I'm looking at, okay, what do they mean when they said you have to learn to resurrect yourself? So then I really started to go back through my whole experience when I was out and all the training I got in those few days after my heart was, going and I was alive, so to speak, in the body, but I wasn't really in the body at all for a few days. And during that time, I had a lot of training and the kind of training that I've not had in the physical. It was on a very high spiritual level. And I realized over time, as I'm healing myself here after that experience, little by little, I start to recognize, oh yeah, resurrecting myself means fully raising myself up from the dead. But what's the dead? Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. What's the dead? And I realized, oh yeah, well, the body is dead when there is no spirit, right? It's the body cannot live. And that's why the term spirit comes from the word that means breath. It's the spirit in the body that allows the body to start breathing and be alive. When the spirit fully leaves, then the body stops breathing. There is no breath in the body, and it's dead. It's considered dead. And a dead body is considered a corpse. And so without myself, without spirit, the body can't even breathe, which means the body is never the cause of anything. Now, if you think about that, how many people, when they get sick or when they stub their toe or when they have a headache or anything, what's the first thing they assign cause to the body? They literally blame the body for the problem. Oh, I can't go out play baseball with you today because I broke my leg. The body's got the broken leg, and because of the body, I can't play baseball. I want to play baseball, but I can't because the body is this way. Or as a person gets old and they used to be very athletic or whatever, or they were a dancer, and now they're too old and their body doesn't work that way, and so they can't go out dancing, and they go, I can't dance because of the body. The body's too old, or the body's injured, or the body's sick. And when you really look at anyone saying that, if you look at them, they're divided between who they are as separate from the body. At the same time, they're blaming the body for the cause of their life or the cause of their limitations, the cause of their condition that they're experiencing as the spirit that they are. And this is what keeps us divided. So when I start to really delve into what is this meaning of raising oneself from the dead, it's not raising oneself from a dead body and becoming alive again, making the body alive. No, it's nothing about the body. It's about your consciousness. It's about yourself as the spirit that you are, awareness, and being able to see and realize the truth that not only are you not the body, that's just the beginning. Nothing is caused by the body. So you have to, what I had to do is I had to really start to look within myself and go, okay, how often and how many times and in what ways have I blamed anything to the body? And by blaming the body for something, I can't do it because my body's messed up. That kind of a thing is a sure way to get yourself stuck in the body, and you might override that stuckness for an entire lifetime. And then you die, and then you have to reincarnate and come back and free up that part of you that's been stuck, blaming the body. So I had to start to unravel anywhere. And these are things that I never even thought that I was doing. I assumed I wasn't. But when I really start to look, I'm going, oh yeah, there's an area where I blame my body for what I couldn't do. And what made it challenging each time I had a near-death experience to come back was when I was coming back, there are some people who had near-death experiences where they had terminal cancer, last final stages of cancer, and then they have a near-death experience and they come back and voila, there's no more cancer. Or they were riddled with all kinds of problems, physical problems, and then they have a near-death experience, come back, voila, no more physical problems. Well, that wasn't the case for me, and all the problems are still there, because the problems that were still there were the problems that I assigned to the body as the cause of them. Oh yeah, this is the body's problem. No, it's not the body's problem. How did the body start to have the problem? The body's always the effect. The body's always the result of how we relate to everything. So not just how we relate to the body, but how we relate to life, how we relate to other people. And every time we relate to anything as something out there, something besides myself is the cause of something, then we're going to end up with a problem. And so that is taking it step by step. I had to peel out the layers of, okay, when I was a kid, I used to go, gee, I so wanted to go out and play with other kids, but I was sick. Well, I was sick, but it was the body that was sick. And so I get out of the body and try to do things out of the body, but then in order for me to do things out of the body with others, they have to recognize themselves as spirit out of the body as well. But even if they did, sooner or later, I had to come back into the body, because I've separated myself from that aspect of what I disowned of myself and made it and stuck it in the body and said, that's not me, that's the body. And it's not true.
Michael,
me.
I was just going to ask, Michael, you have a wonderful book called You Are the Answer. And I think just while you're talking and I'm reflecting and listening, and I think a lot of people listening maybe are wondering, so how do people go about finding that out, that they are the answer, that they, as you would put it, are spirit and not the body? How do they go about shedding some of those layers from childhood or from past lives or from in between lifetimes, from traumas?
Yes. Well, number one, I don't think anybody has to try to seek it out from childhood or past life or in between, any specific time period, because in spirit there is no time. So the way, I think the best way is to just take it as it comes along. It's like everything is set on a dumbwaiter. and so, the first course comes up on the dumbwaiter, and if you take it off of the dumbwaiter to serve, then the dumbwaiter goes back down and picks up the second course and then serves the second course and goes deeper and deeper. And that's how our awareness works. Our awareness is at the core, at the center of everything. And so we happen to be sitting up high and almighty, so to speak, above a lot of things in our awareness, because we don't want to have anything to do with it. So the first step is, like we're laughing at the beginning of this show, laughter is hugely important. Getting into amusement, because if we take any of this stuff seriously, we're not going to do it. All right? You have to think about, okay, when's the time when you succeeded the most or you did something well, is when you were enjoying it, when you were laughing, you're happy with yourself. Then you just keep going. You just keep doing better and better and better. But if you get it serious and you worry and you get unhappy with yourself and kick yourself because it's not going right, you get invalidated, you feel guilty, none of those things help. They just bury your awareness more and make you more constricted. But if you decide, okay, I'm going to just approach all of this in at least a little bit of amusement, a little bit of humor, a little bit of laughter. Hey, what's the worst that can happen? You going to kill me? One of the good things about having near-death experiences is, nobody's going to be able to kill you. They can shoot you, but you're not dead. And you're the one who experiences life the way you experience. We experience life the way we decide. It's everything we experience, including pain and suffering, is based on our decisions. And our decisions about our life, our decisions about ourselves, our decisions about others. And so how we start to get free of all of this, we have to get into a little amusement first. It brings our vibration up. Everything is energy. Like I love your show's title, Energy Matters, because you can read it, you can look at it as energy matters or energy matters.
Right.
All matter is energy, and anything that matters is energy, and energy itself matters. It's the only important thing is energy, because everything is energy. So being clairvoyant really means you're just looking at everything in your life, every physical thing, your body, everything, your mind, your experiences, what you feel, what you think, everything is energy. So once you get that, it's easy to look at anything. There's nothing you have to be afraid of. There's nothing you can't solve. There's nothing that you can't do, because everything that you're interested in, everything that happens in your life is energy. Now, what makes it complicated is we call all the different kinds of energy different things. Like, this is a book, this is a computer, that's a car, and this is my thinking, my thoughts, and these are my feelings, and that amongst all my feelings, this is anger, and this is grief, and this is guilt, this is fear. We label different vibrations as different things. And once we do that, there's nothing wrong with that, but once we do that, we start to believe that each thing is an independently existing reality in and of itself as that thing. There's a book. Of course, that's a book. And that book was here yesterday and still here today. And if nobody does anything to it, it'll probably last for, 100 years before it starts to get all disintegrating page by page. But so we think it's independently there, but it's not. Everything is related. Everything is part of energy. So I'm energy, you're energy, the air between us is energy. So how do we relate to all that? If we keep on trying to isolate ourselves from everything as that's not me, and that's not me, and that's not me, and I didn't do that, and I didn't do this, and it's not my problem, and and we start separating ourselves from everything, then we find ourselves in a great deal of pain and suffering, because we're in isolation, we have no communication, and we're not recognizing we're part of this limitless, eternal beingness that expresses itself as energy and energy forms. And so to the recognition of that we are the answer, I am the answer of my life, is what am I deciding? What am I asking for? Really? Not what I think I'm wanting, because we all believe we're wanting happiness, and we're wanting this, and we're wanting that, and all good stuff. But are we? There's parts of us that we shoved down and said, I want to die. I can't stand this. I hate you. All these kinds of things. And when we feel like I hate somebody, what's that mean? That's a desire, isn't it? I hate you. I want you to die. I want you to go away. I never want to see you again. That kind of thing. I definitely want you completely separate from I'm me and you're you, and okay, I won't kill you, but I don't want to see your face again. That kind of stuff. That's all desire. Most people don't think of hate as desire, Repulsion is desire. I want this out of here. I want to get away from this. And so when we start to look at that, we find that, we want all kinds of stuff. And a lot of stuff we want isn't necessarily, very happy stuff.
Right. So, Michael,
yes,
that makes me think of something when you use the word awareness. I think many people, when they hear that word, they may think of that as, well, what I think. Because, for a long time, one of our definitions of existence has been, I think, therefore I am. And
yes.
One of the things I think that's happening in the world right now is we're really looking for a new definition of existence that I think therefore I am really isn't true, actually, because I am beyond thinking, right? And
yes.
And that word awareness is not what you're thinking. It's a type of perception. But do you have better ways to describe that to some, like, how do I know when I've gotten in touch with that inner awareness and I'm just being that or experiencing that?
Yes. Earlier on when I was describing my childhood, and the number one challenge I had in school, early elementary school, was the teachers wanted me to think. Think, Michael, what do you think about this? Which means they wanted judgment. They wanted opinions. And I didn't have it because of my many lifetimes in meditating. I learned to empty my mind so I don't have a thought in there, or very, very, very few. And I'm not producing these thoughts that are just to give an opinion and judgment about things. In fact, I was deliberately, actively dispensing with any kind of judgments that I come across in my mind. If I have a judgment about something, I go, oh yeah, that's a judgment. And in most cases, I found those judgments didn't even belong to me. I picked it up from other people. And so anytime I recognized that, I'd let it go. And the whole idea why I teach people to develop their clairvoyance, even though people think of clairvoyance as something different, like, you see auras and spirit and all that, and that also includes clairvoyance too. But clairvoyance is so, so, so much bigger than that, where everyone is using their ability to see with their inner eye, see with the eye of spirit, and not with the physical eyes. The physical eyes only pick up certain kinds of vibrations and translate it through your nervous system and brain, and then it projects it on your inner screen that says, okay, this is what you're seeing. But when you see directly with the eye of spirit, you're seeing something much more essential. And you start to see more and more. You're still seeing things that are manifested, things that are expressed by all of us in consciousness, but we're starting to see beyond what is considered physical. We're starting to see closer to, we're starting to see the steps toward ultimate spirit. And we're seeing finer emanations of spirit and expressions of spirit consciousness. And as long as there's consciousness, there's two. The difference between consciousness and awareness is one. It's limitless and it's not divided. So even though in language we say, I'm aware of you, that's two. And we're really talking about more what we call consciousness, which is there's an I that is conscious of something else. And awareness just is. Like Cody, you said, it just is. Awareness is. And nothing changes in awareness. But what do we become conscious of is all change. Every little thing that we're conscious of in most cases is change. I'm conscious I'm feeling this way, and then a second later I'm feeling just slightly different. And a moment later, slightly different, a moment later, a lot different, and so forth and so on. Thoughts come, thoughts go. So anything that comes into consciousness changes. But when we start to open up our space, our inner consciousness, to something more than this, that, and the other thing. in the physical world and something more than just this energy and that energy, then we start to open our consciousness up to that which is more and more towards spirit, higher and higher vibration, and till where there's no vibration at all. There's nothing we can call something. Okay, as long as there's a vibration, we can call it something. It's a vibration. It goes plus and minus. However fast it goes, it's still a vibration. But we go faster and faster and faster, which translates on a clairvoyant inner seeing level as more and more brightness, more and more light. Most people, when they close their eyes, see darkness. And the reason for that is very simple. They're still using their physical two eyes to look with, but their eyes are closed. Their eyelids are covering over the vehicle. So what they see is darkness. And if they focus a little bit differently, they'll see the back of their eyelids and some capillaries and a little bit of light coming through the eyelids. And there's a glow. And that's as good as it gets on the physical eyesight level. But as you train yourself, this is why so many types of meditation practices depend on you closing your eyes to go inward. You're turning off that physical eye, looking with your eyeball ability. You're turning it down and kind of deprogramming yourself from just using, every time you think of seeing, that's where you're looking out your eyes. So then you start to have a whole new awareness of seeing. Oh, I have my eyes closed. How can I see with my eyes closed? Is the first thing early on. But then you go, oh yeah, I dream with my eyes closed, and I do creative imagination with my eyes closed. So that's seeing. It's a different kind of seeing. And so then you start to get used to not looking with your physical eyes when you have your eyes closed, and your consciousness moves up to the third eye, moves up to the sixth chakra, and you start to use a different part of your whole makeup to look with instead of the physical eyes. Mm-hmm. Then you start to see energy. You start to see light. You start to see the higher frequencies, because your pineal gland, your third eye, sixth chakra whole mechanism is designed for being able to see on a higher level, closer to spirit. And then you start to see spirit, as we call it, not the spirit that is everlasting, immortal, limitless, and all, but each of us we call spiritual beings or souls, and we have a spiritual form. We have a certain way we can see each other in colors, vibrations, and form. And so we're getting more spiritually oriented, where our sight is more and more directed towards spirit. And so each and every one of us, 24/7, whether you're sleeping with your eyes closed, meditating, or your physical eyes are open and you're driving down the street, your inner vision is working 24/7 all the time. It never rests. It never stops. It never goes blind. You could be physically blind, but your inner vision is going all the time. That's why some physically blind people see so much more about life and about other people than a physically perfect vision person who doesn't look with their eye of spirit inside. And so the first thing of starting to recognize yourself is starting to ask yourself, okay, what am I looking at? Some people go, oh, you're clairvoyant. I want to be clairvoyant like you. I want to see auras. I want to see future. I want to see spiritual beings and all that. Isn't that so cool? And hey, everybody can do that, except they don't realize they're not looking at what I'm looking at. So yet they expect to see the same thing I see if they're looking at something completely different. It's like if I were looking at the east wall of a building and it has beautiful paintings on, and I'm going, wow, those paintings are masterpieces and everything, and the other person is looking at the west wall, which has just a brick wall with old kind of broken down brick wall, and they go, cow, why does he get to see all these beautiful visions and I'm only seeing this old brick wall? Well, if he turned around and looked at the east wall, he'd see the same thing I'm seeing. Or if I turned around and looked at the west wall, I'd see the same thing he's seeing. But that's the first step, is you have to start to recognize, what am I constantly looking at? We all know people who complain all the time. They complain about this, they complain about that. Their whole life is complaining about stuff. If you look at them clairvoyantly, what are they looking at with their inner eye all the time? Is what's wrong with everything. They're looking at an image within their consciousness, within their mind, that says, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with this? What's wrong with that? And all they see is what's wrong with this and what's wrong with that and what's wrong with this and what's wrong with that. And everything in their life is seen through the filter of what's wrong with this. And then not only if they were happy about seeing what's wrong with everything, if seeing what's wrong with everything gave them great joy or great peace, that would be one thing. But no, that image in their mind that they're constantly looking at that says what's wrong with this is angry and unhappy because something's always wrong. Okay, so they're not only seeing what's wrong with this and what's wrong with that, but they're also looking constantly at this energy of unhappiness and irritation and annoyance and anger and displeasure, discontent, and that's energy. That's a certain quality of energy, and that doesn't change because that's the image. It's imprint of that energy. So they're constantly looking at that kind of energy. If you made it into a sound effect, and so they're always going not. They're not laughing.
So
that sounds like the pre-show.
Yeah. How do we get rid of these images? Is it through the awareness? In other words, recognizing, hey, that's not me.
Yes.
Or is there some thing we can do? I mean, how do you teach people to get unstuck, in a sense, or out of these filters?
Extremely simple. Number one, you can't try to do that. If you put effort into any of this, it doesn't work. But first thing is recognizing, okay, I have to let go of trying. Just do. Just like Yoda said, don't try, just do. And what you can do is the mechanical part is, we call it blowing a picture. It's just recognizing, oh yeah, I'm stuck on a picture. This isn't real. Blowing a picture means you're recognizing, oh, what I'm thinking, believing, feeling as reality, which once you decide it's real, it's unchangeable. It exists on its own, and I can't do anything about it, kind of a thing. But once you realize, no, what I used to think, this is, I wake up in the morning and I feel this way. Okay, that's my reality. I can't do anything about it. I just woke up feeling that way, unless I take a medication or something. No, that's just what you're looking at. You woke up looking at this image of not, making an image that makes you sick or makes you not feel well. And you go, oh, what is that? Oh, it's a certain tone, certain vibration. I know it. I'm feeling it. I'm experiencing it. So let's take that image out. It's like a little piece of, like what used to be a Kodak Instamatic image, on a piece of a little square thing. And you just pull it out mentally in your mind. Just decide you're gonna let go of it, and you're gonna let go of it. And a good way easy way to do it is create a new image, like a image of a rose, and as a receptacle. Okay, you're giving it a place to go instead of sitting inside your head and in your mind all the time where you spend. So you're pulling it out. Just imagine pulling it out, putting it into that rose, and go, okay, now I don't need that image. I don't have to be looking at unhappiness. I don't have to be looking at what's wrong with this, what's wrong with this, what's wrong with this, like a robot. No, I'm done with it. I don't need that. I like to be happy. Okay, I like to laugh. Okay, great, let's do that. So you put that in the rose, and then you go, kaboom. Imagine that exploding, like this brilliant light flash, go like fireworks. And This isn't a violent thing or anything. It's just you could be happy and just go poof, yay! It's exploded, and it's everything's energy. That image, the thought, the feeling in the image, it's all energy. So when you explode it, you're neutralizing that whole image. And not only are you neutralizing that image, you're claiming your own energy you put into it back. Because what makes reality for each of us is the amount of energy we put into it. The more energy we put into an image, the more real it becomes. And if we put enough energy of our creative energy into an image, it becomes bigger than life. That's all we can even think about. We get obsessed, addicted, and so forth. We take our energy out of it. No more addiction. No more, obsessing about it. No more, because we know it's not true. Truth shall set you free. That's essentially the bottom line of using awareness. You're getting to the truth. Now, another way to say this, that very thing I just put into a mechanical context of blowing up the image is the same thing as forgiving. When we forgive, people have a really hard time forgiving because they think they have to do something to forgive. I'm going to forgive you. You did this horrible thing to me, but I'm bigger than that. I'm better than you, so I'm going to forgive you.
Cody, I have something to say.
Yes.
It usually starts with, we need to talk.
We did that episode already. Yeah. No, I like that. I'm going to forgive you, and so I expect something back from you. Yeah.
Or I'm going to forgive you so I could feel better that I'm the bigger guy, and I'm the better person. I'm the saint, you're the criminal, but I'll forgive you anyway. And that's not forgiveness at all. You're still holding, that grudge in your mind. You're just feeling better about yourself about it than before. But true forgiveness is, you got to get to the truth. You're getting to the truth that, oh, wait a minute, I'm the one who blamed you. Right? Just that same thing as how many times do we blame the body or make the body the cause of our problems or cause of our experience, of cause of what we're feeling? No, it's never the body. The body's just the intermediary. The body is a servant that's helping us have our experience, but we're the one causing it by the decisions we make and what we make real and what pictures, what images in our mind we hold and say, this is reality. This is what I want. So if I'm blaming somebody, I'm the one blaming that person. That person might be playing golf and having a great time and having a wonderful life. I'm sitting here stewing and unhappy and suffering and pain, agony and hate and all kinds of stuff. Gee, what's wrong with that picture? And so when you realize that, and I realize that, I go, oh, I'm suffering because I'm blaming this person for my experience, whatever my experience was. He took this away from me. She did this to me, and so forth and so on. So the minute I recognize that, I go, oh, I'm free. All I have to do is take the blame. Where does that blame come from? Is a bunch of judgments, right? Well, that's a bad thing to do, and that's horrible, and this is that. Nah. All these judgment images, those are all images, and I realize that's where I'm coming from. I'm creating this thing. I'm producing this whole pain and suffering that I've been going through for years. And so when the moment I realize that, I go, wow, okay, forgiveness means realizing the truth, that's not true. It's just images. That's just images. And I put energy, my creative, powerful energy into it, and I'm being the effect of what I put my energy into and calling it reality, that it's happening to me. But the minute I realize I'm the one who did it, I'm the one who put the energy into these blame pictures and these judgment pictures about this person or about this situation, about this condition, or about the body or about the world or about the government or about God, anything. And I take that away. I just go, do I need this? No, I need that I need a hole in my head. Boom, let's get rid of it. It's not true. And the minute I know with certainty it's not true, and none of it is true. I've forgiven. So what I'm really forgiving anybody, if I'm forgiving someone, I'm just forgiving them, that person, of what I blamed them for. I'm forgiving them of the images that I created and invested my creative power into to try to make it real. And I'm realizing none of that is true. And it's the exact same thing. We call this waking up, spiritually waking up, because it's the same as when you're having a nightmare. When you're sleeping at night and you're in a nightmare, well, usually at first it's a nightmare because you think it's real. It's happening to you. This monster's chasing after you, or somebody's being really nasty to you, or somebody's threatening to kill you, or whatever. And you're scared, you're angry, you're upset, you're in grief, whatever. And you're feeling all that stuff, and it's so real, isn't it? Until, let's say, one way is, the most common way is, you wake up in your body and you go, whoa, that was just a dream. Thank God that was just a dream. Whew. But your heart's still pounding because, you're still scared and everything. But now you could relax and you go, oh, and you start laughing. Wow, I thought that was real. But it's not. It was just a dream. And the images we hold in our mind all the time are dreams. They're not real. They're images. What we call a dream we have at night when we're sleeping, whether it's a nightmare or a great dream, is still a dream because we know it's not real. It's just made up. In our mind somehow, even with, I didn't do it consciously, but unconsciously, I made up this dream, and I was living in it until I wake myself up. Now, those of the listeners who've had lucid dreaming, they know, within the dream, you become lucid, you become awake, that, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture? Oh, I'm dreaming. My body's still sleeping, but I'm in a dream. And that's a joyful experience for any of us who's had it, because once you recognize, I'm just dreaming, there's no restrictions anymore. You're not bound by the horror of the nightmare or whatever. And you just start laughing, and within you're still dreaming, but your dream improves to a exponential level because you're going, wow, that's just a dream, which means it's not real, which means I somehow, not knowing, not consciously, but somehow unconsciously, I made it all up, which means if I'm still dreaming, and now this horrible dream is not there anymore because I've already realized that's just dreaming, I could do whatever I want to. I could have a happy dream. I could be lying on the beach. I could be swimming with the dolphins. I could be teleporting myself anywhere. I can go back and forth in time. I could walk through walls. I could do anything I want to. I can throw myself against a truck and it won't hurt me.
Wow.
And you start playing.
So
right?
you're free.
You're
suddenly free with that awareness.
Yep.
It makes me think, because you're describing this, there's this phrase that you create your own reality, which as a concept, I don't find very helpful, because then you can just turn that into blame, where the truth of it is, and what you're describing, at least what I'm hearing, is that you're kind of describing the mechanics of how you create your own reality. And once you realize that, you're free. Right?
You're free.
You could have a lucid life rather than lucid dreaming.
Exactly.
Let's have a lucid life.
Forget about lucid dreaming. Let's have a lucid. That's perfect. Let's have a lucid
Sounds way
life.
better.
Yeah. And when we have a lucid life, just like in lucid dreaming, we're still dreaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
But our dream gets so much better. We're happier. And that is going in the right direction, because we're going to be here in this incarnation as long as we need to, as long as we have something to learn, as long as something we have to share, we're going to be here. And so if we're going to be here, that means the same thing as we're going to continue sleeping, in our dream, like in a dream state at night when we're body sleeping, but we're dreaming. We're not ready to wake up in the body yet. We're still in the dream state. The body needs to rest. So it's a little bit like that in reverse. We're living here, incarnated in the body. We still need to be in the body, which means we still need to be in the dream. You know, when Jesus said, be in the world, but not of it, you can replace the world with dream. How many mystics and enlightened masters said this world is nothing but a dream, or it's an illusion? Okay, it's the same thing. Illusion is a dream, is a picture, is a moving picture, and so they're all pointing at the same thing. Hey, everybody, wake up! You're dreaming, but there's nothing wrong with dreaming. I mean, we like to dream, especially if we have really great dreams. Not only are we spending, 6 to 8 hours resting our body, we get to dream really great dreams, and then when we wake up, we're so refreshed and we're ready to have a whole nother day because we had such a great dream. We're feeling great and we're happy with ourselves. What's wrong with that? Nothing. And so that's a part of that's not the end. We're going to be free of all of this, but which results in something far greater than the best dream you can possibly imagine. It's going to be better than that. Way, way, way better. Not even a comparison. But as long as we're dreaming, let's work toward having better dreams. And how we have better dreams is when we're living fewer lies, fewer illusions, living in fewer pictures, okay? Fewer nightmares. And so we got to start to look within ourselves. We can't be looking outside of ourselves, because then we stay in this. We are not only in the dream, but we become part of the dream. But we're working on being in the dream as long as we're in it, but not become part of it. And that's what a lot of times you hear in meditation, whatever meditation practice, is let it go, let the thoughts just go by, don't engage, don't react to it and become all, bent out of shape because of a thought you have or because of a feeling you have. Just meditation is just letting things go, that because you're starting to train yourself to master your mind, you're training yourself to go, okay, these thoughts are nothing more than thoughts. They're images. The feelings are, and the thoughts are in these images. And there'll come a time where you really start to see the actual images that contain the thoughts and the feelings that you're feeling and thinking in your mind. But you realize, I thought I was actually, thinking creatively, but no, I was just going through a bunch of old pictures. And when I tap into those pictures, I feel a certain way and I think certain thoughts. And then when I get out of that picture, I stop feeling that way and I start thinking that way, and I go into a different picture and I start feeling differently and I start thinking differently. Get out of those pictures, and then I start having different feelings and different thoughts. So if you don't like what you're feeling and if you don't like what you're thinking, don't stay there. Recognize, I'm the boss of me, so to speak. I get to choose. I'm the only one in my life that has real choice. And so I have to be aware that, I don't have to kowtow to this thought. I don't have to kowtow to this emotion. They're not the bosses of me. No, they're just stuff that just comes up. They're like junk mail. I can just delete them. All I have to recognize is, I don't have to pay attention to this. This is junk mail. This is spam. I'm not getting $10 million from Nigeria.
What? Oh, crap. I got to go, guys. I'll be right back. You see through the lies, Michael. So, Michael, thank you so much. There was so much incredible wisdom in all of that, and I think everyone listening has been through that, is probably going through that, and wants to learn more about how to get out of a picture, how to get unstuck, how to wake up, how to change the dream, wake up out of the dream. So, thank you for sharing all of that. And if somebody wanted to find out more, Michael, where could they find you?
Yes, they can find us at online at michaeltamura.com. That's MICHAELT as in Tom, AM like in Mary, URA.com. michaeltamura.com. And then they can find me on Facebook under Michael Tamura, both a public page and a personal page. And we have a newsletter. If you go to the website, you can sign up for a free e-newsletter that Raphael puts out once a month. And the events calendar has all of our upcoming events, different kinds of teleseminars on the phone, wherever you are in the world, as well as in-person seminar weekends. We go all over the place.
I also want to mention, I saw that you have a class called Be a Lamp Unto Yourself, Insight, Wisdom, and Spiritual Healing. And is that one that you teach every week?
That's about, it's an ongoing one. We've been doing this, it's quite popular for about over a year. And each time we have one, it's a 2-hour teleseminar on the phone, most often on a Saturday morning or afternoon or Sunday. But we'll have it periodically about once or twice a month. And anybody can join us for those. And we teach various subjects that helps you become more of a lamp unto yourself, to be your own light and shine your light in the world. Right now, we're finishing up a series on creativity and manifesting.
Oh, wow.
And all of the underlying part of this series is on self-healing, so on a spiritual level. So as you learn stuff, you're healing yourself, and in the process using everyday stuff that we all do. Like, I think the one this weekend is on healing yourself in relationship to being able to manifest travel in your life creatively, so it would help you fulfill your purpose. Many of us need to travel in fulfilling our purpose in life, but a lot of us get stuck in, well, travel costs so much money. Not only the flights or the transportation, but lodging, if it's going to be extended period of time, food, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so a lot of people don't travel because it costs too much. But when you're fulfilling your purpose in life, then you're creating it. And you're creating everything from within. And the amazing thing happens, since spirit is one. Spirit wants to have all of us as spirit, as souls, fulfill our true purpose in life. Not, our whims and fads and things like that, or whatever we happen to want at one time or another, but really to fulfill our purpose, spirit is 150% got your back, so to speak. So the minute you start to live your life on purpose and fulfilling your purpose, your soul purpose, then everything starts to work to support you in that. And you may not end up becoming a multi-billionaire all of a sudden, but it's going to, whatever you need, you're going to be supported in it. And that's, this particular series is looking into different aspects of that through practical everyday application of how this works.
Wow, that sounds like a really fascinating class.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Great.
Raphael and I teach it together.
Wow.
Oh, nice. So, Michael, I have a maybe perhaps a final question that I'd like to ask you. Really, is
sure.
Let's if you imagine, down the road, you're gone, you're dead and gone. you've tried a couple of times and you keep failing, but one of these days. I mean, that's one way to look at it, right? But you have devoted your life to this teaching, to all these different levels of teaching, and you continue to teach, and I foresee you continuing forever. But if you go beyond that point and you look back, what are the maybe 3 to 4 things that you really hope, of your message that people get and continue to bring forth, or that you would want to see emerge in the world?
Yes. Well, the end goal for a lot of my teaching has always been the experience of eternal peace, just to be at peace with yourself. And one of the things that really got me going in my early training, my teacher said one day, he said, Tamura, you have a choice in how you wish to die. And nobody's ever said that to me before. That was when I was about 20 years old. And he said, you have a choice to die, how you wish to die. And I thought, oh, yeah, I always thought we had a choice in how we wish to live. But he put it, you have a choice in how you wish to die. And that got me right between my eyes, so to speak. And I'm going, okay. And then he clarified, took it a step further. He says, you could choose to die in pain and suffering, like so many people do, or you can choose to die in love and at peace with yourself. And bam, that's really what got me started on my spiritual path. I found my spiritual path when he posed that question, because my answer was instant. No, I don't wish to die in pain and suffering. I do choose to die at peace with myself and in love. And once I made that choice, everything that came after that choice, and this is part of what is the underlying thing that's really kept me going for 43 years now in teaching. That's right before I start teaching. And that is those are the tracks I've been on, and everything is to that. Oh, yes, I've already made the choice how I'm going to die. And that's probably why I keep on getting thrown back here.
It's not just that you're bad at dying.
Yes, I wasn't completely at peace, and
right.
I wasn't completely in love at the time I keeled over, and those 5 times. So, but each time it gets better and better. Hopefully, I don't have to go through any more near-death experiences. The next one will be the real one, and I'm out of here. But I'm practicing that.
Mm-hmm.
So, the love is such an overused term for everything under the sun, which kind of is what love is. But it's one of, how can we experience love? How can we be loving if we can't accept, and let things be as they are, and truly not try to control it and make it, this is the only way I can have something. If you don't change this way, I'm not going to like you even. I don't want to even talk to you. That's not going to work, is it? And most people, when they think about love, they think in terms of receiving love. Do you love me? Would somebody love me? I want someone really cool to love me. But the thing is, the experience of love doesn't happen unless we love. We are loving. And the more we're willing to share that love from the inside, the more we experience love. It's not a matter of giving or receiving. Love is just there. And it's an experience that's not one or the other. It's the whole thing. And so you'll find anytime you look back, even when you were not necessarily unconditional love, but you were greatly, when you totally love someone, you really love someone, and or a pet or anything, or nature, whatever it is you love, when you're loving that, you'll notice, nothing really gets to you. Nothing matters in the sense of, in a negative sense. You don't get disturbed. You're just totally there. And you're in enthusiasm, and you're joyful, you're happy. Without that, there is no happiness. So everybody's looking for happiness, but a lot of people don't experience happiness because they're not sharing the love that's within themselves. Who, me?
Mm-hmm.
Why? I'm nobody. I don't have anything to share. No. Anytime we share anything, it's from love. There's no sharing without love. And so it doesn't matter how spiritually advanced you are, how enlightened you might feel you are, or if you're looking at someone else, unless they share, they're not done. even so-called enlightened masters who reach that enlightenment at the end of their physical incarnation, they get enlightened, boom, they got enlightened, and then they keel over and die. Guess what? They're going to be back at least one more time, because they still have to share it. They have to share what they experience. They have to share what they gained. Because it's in the sharing that you learn what you learn. There's no such thing as like academic learning. As long as you memorized everything and you can spit it out in the right way, in a very impressive way, you're considered very knowledgeable. But in life learning, in spiritual growth and spiritual learning, it's not until you're able to demonstrate. You can learn everything, but if you can't demonstrate it, and demonstration requires sharing. You can't demonstrate something without giving, without sharing what you have. And once you do that, you've learned. So you can't keep it for yourself. Nothing we learn here can we keep it for ourselves. We have to share it. And teaching for me is that.
Right.
That's one of my favorite ways to share what I've learned, is through teaching. But again, that teaching, you have to live it, or else you can't really share it. It can't be all talk and just theory and, good ideas. You have to live it, or else it doesn't work.
So it sounds like the spiritual question for all of us in any given situation is, what do I have to give to this? That's
right. Yeah. And it's just all we can ever share. It's not some separate item that we can share. It's part of ours. The sharing and all doing has to come from within our own being. So that means if we're not being ourselves, we can't share anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's one of the things I learned way early on when I'm just starting to teach, and I got thrown into a public stage where there's 500 people, and I'm used to teaching like 40 people, 50 people in a small classroom. And next thing I know, I'm on a stage with the lights on and 500 people or more sitting there, and these are random people for a free event, so they don't have any investment. They don't care. Some of them were there. Let's see, if I throw spit wads at this guy, if it'll be more fun.
Right.
And so I'm facing all this, and I'm, as I'm being introduced, and I'm going, whoa, how am I going to handle this? And my guide came, put his hand on my shoulder, so to speak, spiritually, and said one thing: be yourself. And that is all I needed. I go, oh, I could do that. I could do that. I could just be myself. So I completely relaxed, because I didn't have to be someone else. I didn't have to be someone special. I didn't have to be someone extraordinary. I didn't have to be someone who knew it all or anything. I just had to be me. And so I completely relaxed by the time I got up on the stage and got introduced, and I had a great time. I had a lot of fun, and I realized, out of all those people, some of them are going to walk out. They go, oh, this guy's full of it, and they just walk out. Fine. When you're being yourself, that doesn't matter. It's when you're trying to be somebody else, when you're trying to be better than who you think you are, or when you try to be know-it-all or anything like that, then somebody criticizes and you're devastated because you're not being yourself. But when you're being yourself and somebody says, oh, you're full of it, and I don't think you know anything, and you're worthless, it's like, oh, great. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thanks for the kid.
That's right.
Yeah. But that's just the minority, and the rest of the people who are looking for you will find you, and because they're looking for you, they want you to be yourself. Because if you're not yourself and they're looking for you, they can't find you. And even after they find you, they can't have share in what you have to offer. And that's with personal relationships as well as teaching, as well as anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's true with all relationships. And if you're yourself, you never have to worry. You're going to get fired from the place you shouldn't be in.
Right. And you're going to
find
find the place you should, right? Yeah.
And you're going to find the place you should be. And just the other day, I was talking to a friend who's a renowned filmmaker, and he's coming out with this movie called PGS. Intuition is your personal guidance system. It's a full feature, full-on documentary about intuition, and he goes around the world for 2.5 years interviewing the experts in the field of intuition, in science, in religion, and in spirituality. And I got to be interviewed in this movie, and he's coming out April of next year in a global theatrical release in San Francisco. But he's an Australian filmmaker and a good friend. And when he was in college, his whole family's medical doctors and psychiatrists and dentists and law enforcement professionals. And he's kind of expected to go in one of those areas. But he's in his final exam day, and he's got one more chemistry final exam to take. And then if he passes, then he goes on to medical school. If he doesn't, then find a different career, kind of a thing. And so he's pretty certain he can pass the test, but he's an avid surfer at that time, and he's surfing in the early morning like he usually did before he goes to take his exam to clear his head and everything. So he sees the time, okay, I better pack up and then go to the campus and get ready to take the exam. Well, he's already got the surfboard on the car and everything and ready to go in to drive off, and he looks over his shoulder one more time to look at the waves. And he sees it's like every surfer's dream set of waves coming in. And he's sitting there going, oh, God, this is the set I've been waiting for all my surfing life so far. And I'm going to miss it because I have to go back and take the exam to become a doctor. And then he goes, no, I have to go try those waves. And he's everything on an intellectual level saying, screaming bloody murder, saying that's, you're nuts. You're going to give up your entire career and your life for a couple of waves. You must be out of your mind. But he's looking and he tunes in and he goes, no, somehow, I don't know. It's not just about the waves. It's not just about surfing. I got to go ride those waves. So he takes the board off of this car and runs back to the ocean, and he catches the next set of waves. And he said it was phenomenal. But once he caught those waves, there's no way he's going to make it in time to get into the exam. He lost it. He failed the exam without even taking it. And so he decided, okay, he's going to stay the rest of the day and surf for the rest of the day to figure out what is he going to do with his life now. So his illustrious medical career that all his family and relatives, everybody else he knows has, been very successful, has gone down the tubes. But as he's surfing these incredible waves, he comes to this total peace, and he recognizes becoming a doctor wasn't the right thing for him. Mm-hmm. Yes, he wanted to help people. He wanted to, help people be better and all that kind of stuff, but being a doctor wasn't the way. So, and then of course he's looking at, okay, now what did I do? I gave up all of that for surfing, but I'm never going to be like a world champion surfer that could make a ton of money just being the world's best surfer, right? He's not going to get there. And so he goes, okay, well, surfing's always going to be a hobby, but did I give my life up and my career up for a hobby? And he goes, no, it can't be. Something else. And then he goes, well, I'm out of school now because I flunked out. I flunked myself out today. So I go and collect up all my stuff from the campus, and I have to go find a job because I don't have any money. And then he realizes he's a very good by that time, he was already a professional quality photographer, still photographer. And he goes, wait a minute, I can take surfing pictures, photos. And it was a time when surf magazines were just starting on a smaller scale. It was just starting. He said, I'll turn it into some surf magazine. Well, he did. And he got hired on the spot because his pictures were so great. And he started his career as a photographer. And then it goes into, he became interested in video and filmmaking, and then made surf films. And then after that, he goes, okay, I don't want to make surf films all my life. I want to make real films of stories and everything. And that's how he became a film writer and director. And along the way, he did so much photojournalism. He was he got the Australian equivalent of Emmy Awards for his TV photojournalism twice or three times. And then he got the Australian equivalent of Oscars twice for his movies.
Wow.
And then he had a whole new thing with the intuition.
Talk about following your bliss to success.
Exactly. Yep. So,
ride the wave.
All here for a specific thing, and you got to find it.
Right. That's very beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And and thank you for sharing yourself today with us. We were really just so happy to be able to have you on, and I know we could talk for hours because there is a lot to talk about. But thank you.
You
so
guys have
much.
known each other for over 30 years, so you probably do have
for longer than you've been alive, David. We've known each other.
It's tough being 9 years old and being on a podcast.
Yeah, so definitely thank you so much for being here, Michael. And I just want to say, blessings to you and your work. I know it will continue. And, we look forward to hearing more from you and maybe having you on again sometime.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Thank you, Michael.
It was great. Thank you for inviting me. It was such a wonderful surprise to hear from you this past weekend. And
it had been a while, hadn't it? It's been. I'm still in Colorado, and you
the other
left.
day. Yeah. I was just, what's Cody up to?
Last time I saw him, it was the 80s, and he had long hair.
Yes, he was a country surfer dude. Yeah, well, it's really good to be with you guys and get to be on your show and everything. So hopefully everything goes well. And let me know how things go.
Definitely. Thanks, Michael.
All right.
And everyone, thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there. That was a long one. If you made it to this point in the podcast, you get a gold star for sure. There is a lot to think about. Really, Michael has so much wisdom, so much experience, and has been at this for so long. We really could have talked longer, and yet it went longer than any podcast we have put together, but we just got into it and had a great time. So thanks for listening. And if you want to find out more about Michael, again, check him out. Go to his website, michaeltamura.com, and you can look into more about what he does, look into his book, and
That was cool. And I've taken classes with Michael in the past, and he'll put you in meditation for hours at a time. So
yes,
that was just a taste. That was just a taste for all of you. Incredible wisdom, incredible teacher. Wow. I mean, how many people have been teaching intuitive arts for over 40 years and come on and just share all of that? So lucky us. Before we go, everyone, thank you again for listening. And we've got our intuitive training program starts February 6th. If you're listening to this episode before then, really excited about that. And if you want to join or you have questions, feel free to send us an email. The program is pretty full, but we'll see if we can squeeze a few more in. And then Costa Rica, May 28th, April 28th to May 5th. That's all on energymatterspodcast.com. So, guys, thank you all for listening. Hope you meditate well, and we'll see you in the next episode.
And Happy New Year, everybody. See you soon.
Later.
You've been listening to the Energy Matters Podcast with Cody Edner and David Gandelman. Brought to you by intuitivevision.net and groundedmind.com. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud.com.